Hello, in this video on 3D design, I will teach you how to use and create design templates. Now this is a term that I made up myself. I'm not sure what kind of terminology other people use, but basically this is less about the techniques and more about the philosophy and the mindset behind designing something. And this is a philosophy and mindset that you can use regardless of what you're designing or what program you're using. So regardless of whether you're creating an environment, a character, a prop, or anything else, you can use design templates to help yourself create a consistent and unified theme. And it's actually very simple. Before you start any big project, first take some time to experiment with shapes, form, color, distance, light, shadow, hue, saturation, all of these things to create a set of templates that you can then incorporate and allow them to inspire the rest of your design. This can help you to create a unified design, and what I mean by that is that if you create the pieces of your environment individually, for example, let's say you create a floor and then you create a wall and a ceiling, if you create them all separately without any shared elements, they will look like they don't really belong together. And the same thing can happen to characters and everything else in your project. So design templates will help us to create a unified design. So let's get started. I like to use the grid system to create the general shape. So the shape right now doesn't really matter. We're going to be taking this and changing the shape around. So I will just make it, let's say, about this large. And I've already got my material set up, 25, 50. So basically I go in here, I give it a name of 25, and I make the brightness, the value here, 25. I do the same for all the rest of them, all the way up to 225. And I've also got this material here. Having these kinds of black caution lines is a great way to quickly add interest to your sci-fi environment. If you find your environment is looking a little bit too bland, boring, try adding some caution lines and you'll see that it will spruce it right up. So that's my personal recommendation, to add some more interest if you just want some quick variation. So I'll just start with a value of 150 and the black object color. You can also start, let's say I'll move this off to the side. I can also start with a cylinder. Let's start with a 32 side cylinder, and we can center it and give it the same. And I can move this off to the side so I can have a quick cylinder to insert into my scene if need be. So I'll start by selecting the top, grow, deleting, flipping the face, and I can start doing some basic design. So from this point on, I'm just designing whatever comes to my head. This is the experimental phase, where you just see what you can come up with. So you should definitely experiment with as many different forms as possible as you can, until you basically find something that works for you, something that suits your needs or the kind of unique design that you're going for. So here, for example, I can select this, convert it to polygons, and detach it, not as a clone. I can then select these edges and extrude them downwards here. I can select this and maybe insert two. So this is all about experimentation with size and form and primary shapes and secondary shapes and tertiary shapes. And this might also be a good time to use smoothing groups as well. So I can select this and give this a smoothing group of, let's say, 1. Control I and give this a smoothing group of 2. And I can work without having to worry about support loops. Turn on Turbo Smooth and smoothing groups. I can apply a simple UW map just planar, and you can give this material right here. And we've already got something going on here. This is, I find, a very easy way to add some visual interest. I can experiment with the tiling of this, either by going through here and changing the tiling here. So right now it's just 1 to 1. If I change this to 0.5, you can see how it changes the effect. I can also go here under the gizmo, scale this up and down, and rotate it. I can select this element here in the center and detach it and give this a darker material, for example 100. I can quickly bridge that. Maybe I can give this a darker material. So already I've got 3 different materials here, three different colors that I'm experimenting with. I'll go ahead and isolate this for now. And just keep experimenting. I can work with snaps at this point, so I'm going to go ahead and snap this right here. And snap this up here. And I can activate Y symmetry and X symmetry and lower the threshold so it doesn't weld in the center. And I can copy all 3 of these modifiers to quickly reapply at a future time. So I can inset this. Actually, I may be able to just detach it as a clone for now. Once again, apply a darker material. Bevel. So I can paste those modifiers right back here. I don't want them to be connecting, so what I can do is simply move this a little bit back and move this a little bit to the right. Now I could insert some support loops, or I can work with smoothing groups as well. If I wanted to make things a lot more complex, I would use smoothing groups, so I could not have to worry about these support loops. But I don't want to make this too complex, so I'll just go ahead and use regular support loops. So already this is an example of design template. If you're creating an environment, you can incorporate basic parts of this into your environment, into your props and environments and weapons as well, because we have now distinct elements that we can use to design our objects. So I will just continue experimenting and see what I can come up with. Let's bring this cylinder back, maybe simplify it. So I will increase its height and its radius, decrease the radius, maybe put it about right here. So this is all about experimentation at this point. Then I can clone this delete this side and select these edges and move them over here. Then make sure this is set to 22.5. I can rotate this by 45 degrees over here. Bridge this. Select this. Let me isolate this so you can see what exactly is happening here. I'll select this and cap, and select this and cap. And the reason I capped it is so that I can make better use of booleans. Because whenever you use booleans, you want to make sure that the objects are airtight. There's no holes in them. And I will clone this off to the side once again for future use. This is a handy object to use in Boolean operations, and it's great for design work. This kind of half cylinder that's coming out here, and I can always zero out the Z rotation to have this kind of effect. Now I will give these the same material. I will make sure they are both editable poly. Select it, compound objects, Boolean, and pick operand B. There we go. Booleans just need a little bit of extra work. Be sure to remove the extra vertices. So what I will do is just select this and perform a basic weld operation. And as you can see, we have one extra vertex because it's 119 and now it's 118, so that is good. And here I'll just leave this as the n-gon for now. I'll just do a little bit of basic welding. Select this and copy the Z value. Then select this. Select these edges. And hold shift and extrude this down. And paste that Z value right here. Remove this support loop for now. And weld it right here. So there we go. And now I can simplify or turn this into all quads. Alright, now I would like to insert a support loop around here. So I will select this, select these edges, and apply extrude. Set the extrusion height to 0 and just modify the extrusion base width. Now I will select these edges, ring, convert to polygon, and extrude, bevel, just bevel the height. And once again I can select these edges and apply an extrude operation so I can get some support loops going around here. And I can paste those modifiers right back. Right, so now our design is going somewhere. It's starting to look more complex. I can bring those support loops back. Just insert support loops here and there. Just fix things up here and there until it starts looking better. But this is an example of how you can recycle various parts. Just bring that cylinder back in here and use it carefully like this, and you've got yourself a nice hard surface shape. And because I made a clone of it, we still have this cylinder here. Or what I can even do is select this one, copy it, maybe as an instance, a copy for now. Press Alt A and align it right here, and it's right back here. And I will make an instance this time, And the reason for that is so that I can rotate this back into this position, or even this position, and work in a planar environment. So I can now isolate this, insert a loop through here, and begin doing some editing here. I can even bring this back to 0 to make it easier. So I'm just experimenting with the shape and what I can do with this. If I want the shape to go straight down here, or whether I want it to kind of curve around here. In order to get quads here, I will just delete this, select all of these edges, deselect these top ones, and bring it right back here. And as I use Swift Loop here, I can then go ahead and hold Control Alt and click to even out the loop. Now I can see how it looks back here. See if I'm heading in the right direction. I have another cylinder here, so I can also edit here as well. I can keep this here. I can use this cylinder as a pivot for the other cylinders. So now that I have this, I can maybe give this a darker material to differentiate it. You can change the color later on, but for now I like to use gray, so I can quickly differentiate between different parts of the mesh. And I can select this and apply symmetry. Another easy way to quickly experiment is to select this. We already have two symmetry modifiers, both in the center, Y and X. I can apply another symmetry modifier and experiment, just move around the gizmo here, the mirror sub-object, and as I move it around you can see we get different results. So this is another way to get different shapes as well. And as you move around the mirror sub-object, you can discover more shapes for yourself to see how you can push your design and what other ideas you can come up with. And it's a great way to get more out of the work that you've already done. So instead of having to do all this work, you can simply use symmetry and move it out here and use that in different ways. And if I switch to the Y, we can also get different things happening here as well. And I can rotate it as well, and you can get a lot of different possibilities using this method. Z as well. So I can experiment with the other side here. So that's just a way to continue experimentation and get more out of your currently existing geometry. And I'm not quite satisfied with the materials yet. The color usage, I may want to make this darker, or I may want to give this the caution tape material. And maybe give this object something else. So the experimentation is not done. You can always kind of tweak it to make it better, to improve some areas. So this is an example of a design template. Here is one that I made previously. I've got some floating geometry here, but this is also an example of a design template. And here is another example. Once again, I can just experiment with different shapes and colors. Here it's just monochrome, just different darker and lighter gray here. But I can now take this and incorporate these various shapes into my final environment to give it a unified look. So in the next video, I will take the design template that I made for you and start creating some things using this as a template. And I'll show you how you can incorporate this into an environment or a prop, for example. Thank you for watching, and take care.